has made faith out of the opposite. Right now, the most radical thing we can do for one another is care. I had a friend say that. I'm sure other people have quoted it. Right now, I'm going to talk about New Energy, Crucible Mythbuster, 2 Timothy 4:3. If anybody's curious, they can look that up. It's relevant, and I'm not going to go down any specific religion's focus. There's truth, and the people of that time were as intelligent as anybody now, and they were moral, and they were trying to portray the understanding of the world that they had. So I think we should not discount any given religion, regardless of the hypocrisy we've seen in modern days, because honestly, the words are being spoken to us by different people than the ones who are quoting or acting it at any point right now. So, welcome everybody to Idaho. I've lived here for over 50 years, on and off. I've been in the military. I've traveled around a lot. But the reason I came back, and the thing that everybody wants to comment on, is how beautiful, how spectacular Idaho is. And I think we need to not forget that even though we're a landlocked state, there are some amazingly unique things in this state. The sawtooths come to mind, but there's any number of other interesting things. The fact that in this beautiful city that we live in here, we have desert immediately south of us and really pristine mountains immediately north of us. Skiing within 45 minutes of downtown. You know, how close Idaho is to paradise. Paradise burned. Paradise burned hot enough to consume iron like wood. And as a planet right now, we are on a road way too close to that. We've seen starving children from Africa for the last 50 years. We've seen pets being mistreated. We've seen all these things that could be better, and people aren't reacting. Or the people who would have reacted, and everybody else is on autopilot moving through their day. So, Zach, if you want to bring up the Crucible. A crucible is a vessel or refractory substance such as graphite or porcelain used for melting things at high temperature. Also, the term crucible is an extremely difficult experience or situation, a severe test or trial. We're in that crucible right now. This is our crucible. If you want to bring up the sun picture here, this talk that I'm about to do isn't all doom and gloom. There are real solutions to these problems, ones that are fun. James Watt was a gentleman back when steam engines were being invented, and he described the energy that is now named after him. 1736 to 1819. A terawatt is equal to 1 trillion watts. Just for reference, a hairdryer is around 1,200 watts. Your outlet in your wall, the 3-prong outlet that you have, puts out 1,800 watts max before the wire starts heating up. Worldwide, the power used by humans right now is measured in terawatts, 1 to a couple. It's going up. The average lightning strike peaks at 1 terawatt. Now, admittedly, that's microseconds, but the total power of the sun, 93 million miles away from us, hitting this planet is 174,000 terawatts. There's no shortage of energy. When people say there's not enough sun in Idaho, on sunny, windy days, Germany, which has the sunlight of Seattle, is all renewable energy. Germany has microgrids where each little town pays for their microgrid and sells the excess power to the neighbors that maybe have a cloudier day that day, or not, as invested in the battery system that they have. Pick your thing. The technology's there. And I'm gonna start before I introduce myself with one more factoid. The Wright brothers, 1908, had an all aluminum block overhead valve 4-cylinder running one of their first planes. We've known how to build this stuff. None of this is new, or not that new. We have the solutions in our back pocket. It's a people thing. I learned electronics when I was in the Navy. I did electronic warfare, bombers and fighters. Some amazing physics, really high voltage stuff. Worked at HP, did computers. A lot of people in this valley have done what I've done. I volunteered for Hurricane Katrina back in 2005. And that honestly was my first experience with global warming type storms. Now, with the destruction where the best houses actually got floated like boats and left a house blocking the highway, a perfectly assembled, actually reasonably good house, except it's in the highway. And I saw Hurricane Wilma. Wilma was filling the southern horizon when I was on the coast there. Perfectly pointy storm clouds. I don't think anybody here has ever seen a storm so powerful that it is the entire southern view that you have. And there's so much energy in that storm that the clouds are pointy like a sea star. Wilma sat on top of the Yucatan Peninsula, Mexico, all of the countries right now that are sending us refugees. They weren't that wealthy to begin with, but they had a class 5 storm, which would not be dissimilar from putting your house on the back of a race car and seeing how well it holds up. They had that sit on them for days, and that's not the first storm they've seen. Their infrastructure's hammered. The people with the money have bought guns, and everybody else is running for wherever they don't get shot at. That's the reality that we have to fix. That's what we're going to be dealing with if we don't wrap this up, our complaining and our whining about range. Oh, I have to spend an extra 20 minutes at lunch because I'm plugged in rather than filling it with gas. Find a friend, chat, drink some coffee. There's solutions to this problem. Lions, taigevs, and bears, oh my. Lithium-ion batteries, that spells out lion. Titanium green EVs, not tigers, taigevs. And the polar bears. Do we get to save the polar bears? Well, I have some ideas. Lithium right now is going to be our best battery. There's a lot of reasons. I'm not going to go too deep into that. Zach, if you want to throw up the periodic table real quick, just so we have some reference. If anybody remembers this from science class. If you look right below hydrogen is lithium. It's the lightest, smallest metal. There's actually more energetic metals out there that would do a better battery. But the thing is, your best battery is a faint ghost of power compared to a gallon of gasoline. And it never will be better. It's straight physics. The reason electric cars are orders of magnitude better, the reason I can make any souped up V8 look like a golf cart compared to an electric motor is because your best gasoline engine is 30% effective. 30% of that energy in that gasoline turns into rotation of your wheels. The rest is a big air heater you're driving around. With electricity, 92 is a really inefficient engine. Much electricity is 98-ish. Lead batteries, 75% efficient, 1890s technology, bowling ball of a atom. It's the heaviest one before you start getting radioactive. But they're throwing these lead batteries at us like they're super important. If everybody listening to me right now just swaps out their lead battery for a lithium battery in their gas car, they'll get 3 to 5 miles to the gallon. You'll save 40 pounds, and your alternator will not continuously be throwing a little bit of power to keep that stupid battery charged up. Lithium stays... I've had lithium batteries stay fully charged for years sitting on the shelf. A lead battery won't do that. You'll spend a little bit more up front, but compared to the cost of the gas or the car you're buying, I don't know why the manufacturers aren't putting lithium batteries, just the 12-volt battery, nothing that fancy. Just swap that out, and stop leaving your lead batteries out in the desert for people to shoot at. At least with the lithium iron phosphate, maybe if they shoot a battery up, it'll just fertilize the sagebrush a little better. Because that's the phosphate in there. The other things, lithium's relatively non-toxic. Certainly you could, if you eat lithium, don't eat lithium. Okay, don't eat lithium. But there's lithium in your nerve cells. Crazy people use lithium to stay stable. So we're not talking that tricky of a thing. There's other metals too. So, I bring up the titanium green EVs. If we stopped using steel and started using titanium, a V8 made out of titanium would get 60 miles to the gallon. You'd use cooking oil instead of water as your coolant because you'd be running it at a higher than boiling temperature. But it would weigh less. It would actually explode that gas better. You still wouldn't get over 30% of that energy, though, even with that. But if all of our cars were titanium, that's Iron Age, Bronze Age type transition. The reason that's not happening right now is titanium melts at about 200 degrees hotter than steel. And the things that you pour it in, the crucible you saw earlier, starts getting soft and squishy at that extra 200 degrees, because in a lot of cases, the crucible that you poured the liquid iron into is titanium dioxide. The lava, the black lava up at Lucky Peak, the shiny stuff, some of that is 25% titanium. There's more titanium around us than there is iron. It's one of the more, it's almost as common as aluminum, but titanium has coping problems. It burns in nitrogen. Like aluminum, you have to have special gases to weld it, and you don't want a lot of really high temperature titanium or aluminum wandering around because it'll burn. Okay. If you want to go to the next set, Zach. So go to the burning. Your parents and your grandparents are not coming to rescue us. They can barely sort their recyclables, okay? Polls show that half of them don't even believe in what we're seeing, with their own eyes. They believe some money-driven decision. every branch of government is defective at some point. They're not completely broken. We're still living our lives. We're distracted by non-issues, controlled by wealthy self-interests. We have allowed our worst habits, kind of like sugar craving, a system of fads that pits the best of us against each other with fake news and tawdry low-cost internet distractions. We've twisted the legal system so that it manages to both homicidally and violently end livelihoods, and at the same time, and somewhat randomly, be grossly ineffective to others. Innocent people are going to jail, guilty people are walking free and even being boosted up. We've got to turn this around. And so basically, I can tell you all the basic stuff. The things that we've heard for years. Get an electric car. My wife and I made a road trip out of it. We went through Tahoe. We picked our favorite car down in California. It happened to be a Toyota RAV4 with a Tesla drivetrain. The thing is faster than some Mustangs, okay? It'll go 100 miles on a little bit over $1. We've gone camping in it. I stop at the RV places and plug into the 50 amp or the 20 amp RV plug-in. It's not that hard to adapt. The car charger's the size of a bread box. We just have it in the back with our camping gear. Usually the people, so we've been to Stanley, we've been to Alturas. If anybody is familiar with that, that's beautiful up there. It's up in the Sawtooth. People are happy to chat that this is the first electric vehicle that they've ever seen. And frankly, they let us plug in for free in most cases because we're paying more in profit margin on the lunch we just bought than whatever electricity we're using. It's pennies, maybe. If we plugged in all 24 hours, it's $1 or $2 worth of electricity. The power plug is literally not capable of giving you more than a couple dollars worth of electricity because we have the second cheapest electricity in the United States. Why aren't we driving on it? I'm not against oil. I think plastic is an amazing thing. I just don't think we need to be boiling and burning the volume of Lucky Peak every 3 months as a planet. I think we could make more permanent, lasting things out of the plastic. Keep it going. We don't need to be doing it the way we're doing it. So actually, you can just leave that up for a bit, Zach. If you want to rotate through that, maybe even show some of the cool sun images. There's a bunch of myths that have been going around, like, the sun's putting out more heat, that's why we're seeing global warming. That's not true. The sun is actually in a low period right now. Actually, record low numbers of flares that have hit us. If you want to show that flare one, Zach, that's actually pretty cool. There, yeah. So that our planet is the size of some of those little bright spots on the front of the sun. That flare that you're seeing rolling past there, if that flare hits a planet, and back in 2012 it just barely missed us, it actually hit Mars. The bus bar in your house, the bar of copper that distributes the power through all of your plugs and your lights and your stove, that's between a 1 and 200 amp. Some of the new houses are 250 amp bar of copper. That flare hits this planet, and that bar of copper heats up. Any conductor sees the voltage difference that flare causes on this planet as it tears through our magnetic field. And our electrical stuff, if it's any smaller than the diameter of your thumb, foofs, like hair in a fire. Flares like that hit us every 100 years or so. There was this gloom and doom stuff about a nuclear war. That star hammers us with enough energy to take out all of our electronics every once in a while. And it just depends on what point in our orbit we happen to be and whether one of these flares line up with us, okay? So there's plenty of energy out there. We can solve all of our problems. It's a mixture of batteries. They're certainly not going to solve it, like I was saying. There's other technologies that are actually working in some towns up in Alaska right now. It's called a centrifuge. It's a giant iron drum in a vacuum chamber that's spinning at like 20,000 RPM. And it just stores energy, and you just feed energy in or draw energy off that high-speed spinning drum, and you regulate your power grid for your town. Any given house can just have Herman Miller, a divider between phone centers worth of batteries. Tesla makes it. There's a bunch of other companies that make these. It's a battery you can put in your house. It's completely safe. It'll run your house. It'll save you money because now if there's an outage, all of your food doesn't melt because your battery kicked in. And then if we get smart enough, like some of these other places, and we do a smart grid, at some point, rather than putting another hydroelectric dam in or another gas turbine, everybody's parked car, which is a 20 to 100 kilowatt battery, pushes or pulls power. The new Fords do this. So you can run your house as easily as you can charge from your house with the new truck. That's basic, since the 1950s, an ability for us to do. Why we haven't done it recently or sooner, I don't know, but so Ford's doing it. Any of these other cars could be retrofitted, and in fact, in the fires at Paradise, during the power outage, there were people with Nissan Leafs and other electric cars who were literally running an inverter off of their car battery to keep their house going when the neighborhood power was down. So this is a thing. We've been able to do it. These piles of rubble. I mean, that's your grandma's house. I don't know what I have to say to get you guys to see. There is a light at the end of the tunnel, and it doesn't have to be a train. It can be a cool jetpack. Or, Zach, bring up some of those. If anybody has ever heard of steampunk, there's another thing coming out right now called solar punk. And it's basically alternate world, alternate technology. Cities that process all their own air because every level has a cool green terrace. They process all of their wastewater because they literally run all of their wastewater through, not a swamp, but a garden. You get your food processed out of that. You save billions. There are cities in India right now, 100,000 to multi-million person cities that basically set up a estuary at the low side of their city, and they're running all their sewage water through there. It's processing it, it's saving them a ton of money, and it's locking up all of these different toxins that here we spend, $1 million trying to manage, where they're just doing it with a bunch of plants that are technically picked to handle XYZ problem in the water. We talk about PFAS. So Boise City, right here, so us, was planning to save, and it would have been millions of dollars, for the price of spending $50,000 paying off one of our irrigation companies to dump partially treated sewage directly into the irrigation canal and label it as water reuse. Okay, yeah, we're in a drought. We need water. I don't want people's toilet water on my carrots. Okay? I don't want us to take the cheap way out. We have an economy. We can pay the taxes. I get reasonable. My background's Republican. My dad was Republican. I don't disagree with a lot of those premises. Nature is capitalist. A tree does not keep feeding a branch that doesn't make any growth. If it's in a shaded area and it's not functioning, that branch dies. The tree certainly does not take a chainsaw to itself, though. We can manage the brutality of our transition. We can make it so that it hammers people and the rich do really well. And I think we get out of this really badly, and it actually costs the rich a lot more just to even maintain their own level of clarity and livelihood. And we're surrounded by refugees from every given place. Or we can work together. We can have really cool green cities. We can have a lot of neat technologies that actually cost less to operate. Same level of technical expertise to do electrical as it is for any oil manufacturer. In fact, in some cases, it's more interesting. It's Star Trek-like versus hammered Han Solo barely getting it cobbled together like. Empire versus Republic. Voldemort versus Harry Potter. Pick your theme. We've talked about this. Most of these different new movies are based off of Shakespeare, biblical stuff. I mean, people have been dealing with this. The Bronze Age ended in 1177 BC. Okay? So this is 1,000 years before Jesus and Rome. Prior to the Bronze Age falling, they found a legitimate transaction where somebody north of India bought sandals from Egypt. 1000 BC, more than 1000 BC. They returned the sandals for fit. The sandals were not built poorly. The people didn't like them. They sent them back on the boat, and they got their money back. There was a solid economy working before the Bronze Age ended. We have done this before. We're in a transition period right now. We are right at the point where, Zach, if you want to bring the periodic table up again. Chemical, ionic, and nuclear. We should not be afraid of nuclear. We need to spend the money and do it right, kind of like what the original designer of the nuclear submarines was talking about. I don't want a rubber seal that can fail with 3,000 degree radioactive water. Weld the darn thing, okay? These are things we can get over, but we have to get past this whole massive profit margin, get it done as cheaply as possible. And frankly, I'd like to open it up. Does anybody have any questions they'd like to throw my way? So the box that is a lithium iron phosphate battery, and actually let's have you ask that question. That is a great question. I'd like you to ask it through the mic so that they can record it, because I think a lot of people have that question.
How does Redwood Materials in Carson City, Nevada recycle lithium-ion batteries?
Outstanding. Okay. So let's first just nail down what's in that box, okay? It could be a plastic or an aluminum box, so that's pretty straightforward. We already recycle cans. Inside the box, you have conductors that are usually thin foil sheets of copper or aluminum or both. And the actual material between those sheets is lithium iron phosphate, phosphate being the same phosphate you put on your lawn to make it grow greener. One of the nice things about phosphate, and the reason that specific chemistry versus, say, lithium aluminum or lithium cobalt being what Tesla uses in their batteries, is the phosphate generally is a stronger oxidizer than air. So that battery is less likely to catch fire. It is certainly less toxic. Don't eat phosphate either. But basically, you cut the battery open, sort the metals out with just, say, liquid alcohol. You just pour alcohol through that phosphate slurry with all the metal in it. The metal sorts itself out. You get this liquid alcohol slurry mixed with the phosphate and the carbon fiber. And then you remix back to, because the phosphate's not going away. It is a chemically stable combination. The phosphate stays phosphate. And it just depends on what metals you attach to either end of it. Iron and lithium in this case. It could be titanium, manganese. There's a whole slew, and they give you different voltages, but they all work. Having a lithium come and go off of that phosphate is what makes that battery work. And so you literally just use liquid alcohol relatively non-toxic to sort all that out, and then the rest of it's just cleaned metals that you melt down again. So that's your answer. It's real straightforward and it's relatively cost-effective. And frankly, the other beauty of the lithium iron phosphate batteries is they keep going. They go like 5,000 charge cycles versus 500 for a lead battery as a comparison. That's why your lead battery dies in 2 to 3 years rather than your lithium, which might last 10, 15 years of daily use. NASA, through special charging processes, is getting 40,000 charge cycles out of their lithium batteries. There may be a point where the bearings on your car wear out before your battery wears out. You give your battery to your kids. The house gets installed with the battery when you build it and gets handed down, and you see these cool 19 or 2020 batteries that are like a 1910 resistor, which I have some cool 1910 resistors up here that you guys can look at. But another question?
So why does my weed eater 12-volt lithium-ion battery no longer hold a charge like it did when it was new?
So there's a couple reasons why. And frankly, that does become a question of what battery did they give you? Did they cut corners? I've seen in batteries where they make those foil plates between each layer so thin. It's thinner than the aluminum foil that you wrap your chicken in, okay? And so if you bounce that battery around enough, that foil is going to tear, so you lose some capacity there. There is a point where the different lithium batteries, especially lithium aluminum and lithium cobalt, start to oxidize. Basically, oxygen gets into the process and you start getting lithium oxide, which does not make a good battery, but is still just as recyclable. I mean, the lithium doesn't go away. It just gets bound up in a chemical mixture that's less mobile in that battery. So, frankly, lithium's kind of a rare metal. That's why I'm saying we need to look at these other options like nuclear. The interesting point is stars will burn lithium before they will burn hydrogen. So if our star makes lithium by jamming 2 hydrogens or 2 heliums together, and then that lithium's sitting there, it's going to actually burn that lithium next and then go back to burning hydrogens and heliums. You actually have to have such a big star that it hammers it past lithium, beryllium, and boron and gets it up into carbon and nitrogen. Then you start getting that growth process that brings you to all the other elements. But basically, lithium's great. There's a bunch of lithium. It's not super rare, okay? But lithium, we have to find some other options. Thank you so much. And yeah, just look into that. They'll build better batteries, get a higher voltage than 12 volts also. If you can get like that 54-volt trimmer, it'll work. Any other questions that anybody wants to ask? I'm happy to ad-lib here, and I've been dealing with it for more than 10 years, so.
Yeah, could you speak a little bit, excuse me, a little bit more about how this would play into kind of like the smart grid stuff that you were talking about?
Sure.
In my experience, it seems that there are 2 different things, but there's a lot of overlap, and one could actually help momentum of the other, and they could very much coincide with each other to bring about the changes you're talking about?
Right, okay. So Zach's brought up the electric truck I built. And you can see the solar panels on the roof. I think there's 18 80-pound bags of cement in there. That truck did that trip on $1 worth of electricity to Cuna and back. We built an awning out there, and that's all the cement we used to pour the footers. Why don't you leave the truck up for a second, Zach? Now, that other shot was an awning that we built. That gal that has the awning has a microgrid where she can pull a red lever and disconnect from Idaho Power. So she can be standalone if she wants to. Any neighborhood can do this. So you're going to have houses that have sun, some that don't, because it's sheet trees. I don't want people mowing down trees just to put in solar, okay? But the beauty of this mixture is you can do any and all of the above. You can upgrade over time. So there's space in that truck where I can fit more batteries in as I get more money and increase my range. The lithium batteries are lasting long enough that it's like adding a gas tank to a car, okay? That's one thing. I can plug that car into my house and run my house off that car. If I leave it out in the sun long enough and I never get next to a power plug, it'll charge itself back up and it'll manage it in such a way that it'll just top out when it needs to top out, and it's relatively fail-safe, okay? I built that in my garage. Like I said, Ford now has computers and engineers throwing a lot of money and time at their truck. Again, if you want to build a cool race car and you want to smoke V8s like they were nothing and make them look like golf carts, you want to corkscrew a driveline because there's so much torque in that electric motor that it literally spins that steel up rather than turning the wheels, put an electric motor on there. Tesla's 40 horsepower in that motor for a Tesla. They do 6-second quarter miles, okay? It's $1,000 to buy a 10-horse electric motor. That one has a 15-horse electric motor in it. It makes most four-cylinders look kind of tired. The 15-horse electric motor is a little bigger than a bread box. It actually uses a Curtis controller, which is one of the reasons I don't have it here today. I'm going to make a quick input. Guys, we need to kind of step back on this competitive stuff and start sharing our efforts and our knowledge to a degree. This is a war footing. That stuff that we saw in Paradise where the cities are burning. You know, where in World War II, us being a Christian nation and Germany being a Christian nation, Lutheran religion started in Germany. Martin Luther was so angry with the Pope that he drew a picture of an ass playing a harp with its output gases because the Pope was evil, okay? That's Germany, all right? They're into figuring it out. Jesus flipped tables, okay? There's a point where we're going to have to lock down a little bit. I don't think we should be impolite. I don't think we should leave people out. There's plenty of stories of people that have come around, gang members that are now helping, solid families, wonderful lives, mafia leaders who are, now actual, not fake pillars of their society. People can change. We have to show them the good side and kind of get on their case about the bad side. But to answer your network question and your neighborhood power question, we can mix this stuff. You can start with a smaller battery. As your neighborhood gets more money and as the government figures it out and starts doing better incentives, you upgrade. Real straightforward. Electricity is electricity. I have a green box up here that I can plug into any socket. Europe, America, 240 volt, 120 volt, 12 volt car battery. It'll figure out what I plugged it into, and it'll turn it into whatever voltage I told it to do, from 12 volts all the way up to 400 volts. It's a managed power. It'll charge your battery the way you want it. This is not new. The technology to build this box is built by a guy, it's Manzanita Micro. I'm going to do a little plug for him. He's a Navy guy like me over in Seattle area. And he puts these things together with known technology, but admittedly he's a little guy like me, and he could certainly use people building race cars and buying his chargers. And if you guys want to make a custom voltage, just like gasoline though, electricity is energy. It will kill you if you do it wrong. I want to stress, you need to do it right. You need to follow best practice. You don't want to cheap out on your wires. You want to use care. And if you're starting to get frustrated with a thing, slow down, stop, go have a coffee, chat with your friends, leave it for a while safely. Don't do this. Just like you wouldn't weld on a full gas tank, don't be using both hands on a battery, especially if it's over 24 volts. Trivia point, your skin's resistant to electricity up to about 24 volts. Maybe some people say 36 volts, but I prefer to err on the side of not getting shocked. So that's why you see people handling 12-volt batteries all the time and nothing ever happens. It's below that threshold. But frankly, a 12-volt battery is orders of magnitude more power than it takes to kill you. So use care here, people, but this is very doable. Many people consider DC power to actually be safer than AC, because AC will shock you no matter what, whether you're touching both posts or not, whereas DC, you do have to be a complete circuit. That's the big difference. Any other questions that people want to ask? Throw it out there. I'm happy. I'll go for bread making if you guys want. Or yeah. Hey, the thing that I want to stress here, and what's our time looking like here? I'll fit this in. Okay. These microgrids that Germany's doing, they actually, through renewable energy, every neighborhood that's doing this is making money. On the slow days, like I said, the neighborhoods that are making power are selling it to the neighbors who aren't making power. It's working. And on sunny, windy days, Germany can power the rest of Europe. Okay? They're starting to come out with electric buses, electric fire trucks. These fire trucks are a hub. So rather than just pumping water around, they're now power for the emergency medical system. Let's say, again, let's go back to Paradise. If you want to pop it back to Paradise real quick. They ran out of power, okay? In Europe, that happens. You drive the city bus or the ambulance or the fire truck up to the hospital, and you power the hospital off the bus. Real straightforward kind of a thing. The fire truck is also running all of the electric ATVs, that you're running around helping people with. It's running everybody's radios, their laptops. It's charging up their phones. It's running, whatever stuff. A cop car that's driving up to help somebody now can jump the other car as easily as it can be a base station in an emergency and be the power for everybody's radio and cell phone. There's some really cool solutions that are coming up, and they're straightforward. They're not wackadoodle technology. We've been doing a lot of it in various forms in other ways. It's totally there, and we can do this. And we can have fun doing it. My webpage is bluelightningsolar.com, okay? And again, I'm not here to sell stuff. I have a patent on that awning. Apparently nobody else thought that the window that is a solar panel could also be your roof. So literally no boards, no nothing. You make the roof out of solar panels, okay? You get a cool glass roof that lasts 50 years. It's insulative because it's a double-paned window. And you get all your electricity. Hey, think about a greenhouse where you're still growing corn behind those solar panels and you're making all your electricity. Think about every building in this city where the glass you're not actually looking through is still letting light into your room, but it's also making all the power for that building. And we're already putting double-paned windows on all this stuff. It's just a case of putting the extra cells in there. There's already power in that room. So it's just a case of hooking that window up to the power. You can direct drive your AC straight. They've got microinverters now that are the size of that little box that you see on the back of the solar panel. And every one of these windows can just be a direct drive where you just run it. You hook it up. The construction people just have to know that the positive goes with the plus sign and the negative goes with the negative sign, and then you caulk the thing, right? It's the same process we've been doing. These aren't big changes, and it's completely right there. And I just don't know what to say to get people to quit ignoring these videos and start making cool iron things. That Crucible that we just saw, that's iron pouring out, and I think they're making swords on that one. But this stuff is fun, right? You can do this in your backyard.
I got one for you, Greg, actually, if you
Okay.
don't mind taking another Q&A really quick.
Yeah.
So, what is the best way that you can think of to combat scientific illiteracy in changing people's minds on these topics, because as we discuss these things, I'll be honest, when you and I first met, you were talking circles around me, man. I may be an AV guy, but I don't know electricity like
I
you do.
appreciate it.
Of course.
For me, it's multiple decades of me doing this, okay? And literally, so I also had the military teaching me. But yes, outstanding question. Bill Nye the Science Guy. You guys remember him? He was fun. The reason you learn this is because you have a reason to learn it. I didn't figure out how to troubleshoot the registry in Windows because it was useful for buying bread the next day. It paid the bills, and I had to do it to pay the bills. So there's kind of a double incentive there. Make it fun, and it can be. I mean, and I'm going to go a tad religious because I do believe in God. You don't have to. The physics works out the same either way. So, but all of this is really interesting stuff. I can't imagine having more fun fiddling with this stuff. But also, if we're driving the jobs and your boss says, I'm not paying you unless you figure out how to make that thing work, whatever it is, Germany got all their money to start World War I and then later fight World War II off them discovering how to make paint better. Victorian age, okay, they're coming up with steam. They're burning a bunch of coal. They have coal tar, barrels of this toxic goop coming out of all these chimneys that are burning coal all around Europe. So they have just docks full of barrels of this garbage, okay? Some guy initially in Britain, but they decide not to listen to him, figures out by accident that you can use this coal tar for other things, okay? And then some different guy figures out that if you mix certain acids with this coal tar, you get these wackadoodle colors coming out. Victorian era, Germany's starving. They figure out that, one, you make paint and you make a ton of money off of mixing oil with these different acids, and you get cool paint, and you basically revolutionize the clothing industry. Or flags, or any other thing. You start making artificial colors. But then they figure out, oh, hey, we can make artificial fertilizer and no longer fight a war over some island full of bird poop in the Pacific to make our fields grow better, okay? So they make tons of money. They figure out how to make gunpowder better. This is that transition in the early 20th century, late 19th century. And that also forced economies of scale to go, well, we're tired of kings and lords. They're not cutting it. They're not adapting quick enough. We got to have other governments. We're at another change here, people. Let's figure it out. Let's have fun doing it. Any other questions? Cool. I think, have I burnt my time? This was fun. I want to thank all of you. Have fun doing it. Make your house white. Make the roof white. Reflect it back into space.
All right, everyone, one big last hand for Greg. And that concludes Hackfort in room 110 on Saturday, September 25th. Thank you all for your time and participation.